Here on Necromunda, one of the myriad worlds in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, far off into the darkest future imaginable, you make your living as a bounty hunter.
You had me at Bounty Hunter game. I don't know why we haven't gotten a proper 40k Doom before, but it's finally here. But Necromunda's enemies are mainly humans, so I'm still waiting until I can rip and tear some Tyranids. But hey, Necromunda is really fun, but it's got some problems, and I want to start off with the biggest ones. Bugs, performance issues, and crashes. Personally, I haven't run into any bugs, I think. I rarely do in video games, maybe I'm just lucky. But the first night I played this game, launch day, I had performance issues, mainly stuttering, like frame drops. But then the day after it was completely fine and I haven't run into an issue in regards to performance since. But crashes, I have had 3 or 4 crashes to desktop. Twice when starting the game and I think 1 or 2 times when starting a mission. So at least it never happened during a mission, which is great. So for some people the game is unplayable, but for others it's fine. I'm one of the lucky ones. But I had annoying problems with input, like sometimes the game would stop recognizing that I was pressing the left mouse button. But it was kinda rare. But also when you reload, you have to make sure you let go of all the mouse buttons, otherwise the gun won't fire, like the game doesn't recognize your input anymore if you reload. So you have to do a new left mouse button input. This also happens with ladders, where I have to not touch the keyboard and then press E, and then I can use WASD. One huge annoyance for me was the aim down sights. If you use aim down sights, then your sensitivity drastically lowers to the point where it forces you to change from wrist movements to shoulder movements for the mouse, and I found no way to adjust the ADS sensitivity. For the first few missions I could barely figure out where my enemies were because they kinda blended into the environment. But it got better, or maybe I just got better at seeing them. This is a Doom shooter with elements of looter shooter. And I would say the looter shooter elements are a very, very light touch. You barely need to think about the loot. And in terms of loot variety, it isn't great, but it isn't bad either. It works. Alright, core gameplay. It's actually pretty fucking awesome. Point A to point B grappling hook, really high double jumps, dodging, and guns with high impact. But you also have melee executions and psionic powers which are way too powerful. While you are executing someone, you are in an invincible state while you do the animation. If I wasn't invincible while I used the execution, I would never use it, because I don't like dying while I'm stuck in an animation. Almost all the tough enemies can be trivialized by the executions and bionics. And I have a really easy fix for that. Instead of letting me do executions all the time, make me stun the enemy first, like in Doom. Or an even easier fix, just have execution charges. So I would have, for example, 3 execution charges, and when I use one it goes on cooldown. That way I would save executions for annoying or tough enemies instead of just whenever I'm close to anyone. There have been multiple times in the campaign where the game made a big deal about an enemy and then I accidentally instantly kill him by executing him, and I thought he was just another random enemy. I was thinking to myself, yes, boss fight. But then it's over in 3 seconds. It's a bit of a letdown.
I'm in.
Well done. Stay alert. The Black Serpents are headed your way.
Hey! Silver Talon now, huh, boys? That was a dumb choice.
The bionics. At the point where you have all the bionics, the game becomes super easy. There are 4 abilities that become just way too strong, and that's Crush, an ability where you teleport to melee and do an AoE explosion. And then there's Blast. You kinda just shoot a laser at people and it does a lot of damage. Heightened Senses is a slowdown mode, and then Perfect Aim is an aimbot, kinda like Soldier 76 from Overwatch. And the first step you should take in balancing these is putting on a higher cooldown, because they kinda make you not need to use guns or actually aim. Earlier in the game I just used Blast and Crush, and then I use guns to clean up whatever scraps are left. And with Perfect Aim I didn't even have to aim. And then the combat encounter was done. And at this point I thought maybe I should have just had the game at the hardest difficulty from the beginning, because right now I have all the upgrades, so when I change it to the hardest difficulty, it's not that much of a difference. But I also think that's because these abilities are so powerful. With Heightened Senses you can just use that as a speedrun mode to skip enemies. And before I give you a demonstration, I need to tell you about the side missions. They are really easy and you can just focus on objectives and almost ignore the enemies. Except for defense and capture missions, but the others are collect objects, destroy objects, or plant a bomb or whatever here. And those ones, especially the destroy objects one, you just activate Heightened Senses, rush from objective to objective, and you're done in 50 seconds. And here's me doing exactly that. What I wanted from this game, and what I thought the game would be from the advertisements, was a 40k shooter where I would have these actual bounties, and right now it kind of is that, but the bounty hunting is kind of weak. And it feels like your guns are the least powerful tool in your arsenal. You have missions that are like a bounty on a character's head, but then that character is just another enemy. The side missions could really use some actual bosses. There's also no endgame. Once you've gotten all the upgrades, you're done. There's nothing new to get. Campaign done, game done. Necromunda is a good game, but you outgrow the challenge of the game really fast, and you're just blowing through it like it's nothing. This is a 6 out of 10 game because of the bad balancing and the annoying input issues. If it weren't for that, I would say a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10, because it didn't blow me away, but it's pretty good. And it feels kinda like a game from 2015, and it certainly looks that way, graphics wise. But I did have fun with the game, and that's what's most important. But the issues I mentioned really dragged it down. Oh, I'm forgetting the dog. He's a wall hack with a cooldown. And sometimes he decides he's hungry for some man meat, but it was pretty inconsistent for me. I never relied on the dog. So that's it. Thank you for watching.